Hello, I'm Amir Suleman. I'm a voluntary community worker here in Peterborough, particularly associated with this mosque I'm standing in, the Masjid Khadija and Islamic Centre in Peterborough. Today I want to talk about Islam and our youth, and it's a constant challenge for us as a mosque and other mosques up and down the country to engage with our youth. We have a variety of people that come and pray here, from under 10s up to over 80s, and people coming to pray is not an issue. We would love more people to come and pray in the mosque, of course, but engaging with a particular demographic, probably the 15 to 25 group, is proving more and more challenging. To get the youth involved in mosque activities, help us with open days, help us with initiatives that will challenge the views on Islamophobia, is proving more and more difficult. And I've read articles and I've talked to individuals, and some people have the view, their personal view, that they don't visibly want to be seen as embracing their faith because of fear of a backlash in the workplace or on the street, particularly females. Some females have chosen to not cover their heads and wear the hijab because of acts of hatred since the Brexit vote, since even Article 50 was triggered. And since we left the EU, these things are all triggers for people to think that it's now acceptable to carry out these acts. It was Baroness Wasi that said that Islamophobia has now passed the dinner table test, and it's an acceptable topic to kind of talk about, and it's clearly not, and it's something we need to move away from. And unfortunately, our youth are affected by this. We're all affected, but our youth are also affected in a different way. There are conflicts with some individuals who feel that they like the Western culture, they like the music, they like hip hop, they like movies, and that's great. I also love those things. Maybe not the hip hop, but I like those things. But it's possible to have a fondness for these things and also practice your religion. It's perfectly fine. This is contemporary Britain that we're living in. I'm a British Muslim. And you have elders that may frown on that, people that maybe originate from the Indian subcontinent that have moved here, and by and large, and again, it's not a sweeping generalization, but some of them will frown on that. They'll think that Islam will dictate to us that we shouldn't enjoy those things. And there are different schools of thought, and it's your own personal opinion. But when it comes to our youth, and if we want to engage them, and we want them to embrace their faith, but also have a good life here, we need to be tolerant of their needs. We need to be aware of what their needs are to have a happy, successful life in contemporary Britain. And they can do that, but unfortunately, the Islamophobia epidemic might be a strong word, but it's certainly growing. That issue is having a negative impact on some of them. They're thinking, well, how can I comfortably practice my faith? How can I pray in the workplace without a backlash, without people looking at me, talking about me behind my back, having negative views of me because they realize I'm Muslim? This is a growing problem, and frankly, we don't see a solution. And when I say we don't see a solution, I'm essentially talking about here with the work that we do at this mosque. We've tried various initiatives, and nothing seems to work to engage our youth. People talk about integration as well. There's the government recently gave pots of money to different cities around the country to encourage integration. Peterborough was one of them. There was an integration fund which has been awarded to certain community groups where the council feel that work is being done to bring communities together. But people often forget that integration is a two-way street. We do like to integrate. It's a common misconception. Of course there are pockets of those in our community, in the Muslim community, that don't wish to do that. They want to stick to their own, and that's their personal choice. But to say that we all don't, I think is another sweeping generalization. When I say it's a two-way street, I mean, we need to be met halfway. If we're reaching out through an open day or whatever it might be, an interfaith dialogue group, which also happens, we expect people to welcome us with open arms and say, yeah, let's get to know you. But we can't force ourselves down other people's throats. And that's another issue where we would want to break down those barriers, build bridges between communities, and we make efforts to do that. And open day is a great example. We get the usual suspects at our open days. We get council leaders, councillors, policemen, firemen, etc., but only a handful of the general public. And we want to fill this place with the general public who maybe know nothing about Islam, have anxious thoughts about Islam, people that have never been to a mosque. The whole point of an open day is not to have a photo opportunity for the council. It's about having dialogue with individuals that we can then, hand on heart, say to them, look, we're trying to work to build integration. We're trying to work to show you that we are willing to integrate, because we are. There was an example is we had an open day a few years ago. A gentleman came in, messaged me on Facebook and said he's anxious about coming. Can he bring his wife? I said, of course he can. He came, thanks to the communication we had, and we had a conversation for 30 minutes about Britain's Got Talent. And it was nothing to do with Islam. I think he was expecting to have Islam forced down his throat. This is why we love our God. This is why we practice. None of those conversations took place. It was literally, open the doors, come and meet us. We're like you. We love the same football teams. We love the same TV programs. And we spoke for 30 minutes. And we're still Facebook friends. And not once have we even approached the subject of Islam. I think for him, it was just a case of, I know a Muslim, and he's a good guy. And if we can just change one person's mind and one person's perception, it's definitely worth doing these initiatives. But going back to the integration piece, there's work to be done, and more so from the wider community. Peterborough is a great example of a city that works well together. There's great interfaith dialogue. It's fantastic. But there are obviously pockets of community, and that's evident on social media, where being Muslim is a problem. Knowing a Muslim is a problem. Having a city with 23,000 non-Muslims is a problem. And it's those individuals that we want to kind of change their viewpoints. But it's an uphill struggle. So the question to you, I suppose, is what do you think a community can do which has a large number of Muslims? What could we do? What initiatives could we introduce that would maybe go some way to change your perceptions or a person's perception of Islam? What can we do to break down those negative stereotypes of what it is to be Muslim? That's a question I have for you.